Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge. Welcome to Eldridge and Company. I'm shocked every time I'm reminded that almost 2 million New Yorkers still have difficulty affording food for themselves and their families. For many years, Kathy Goldman has worked with determination and oftentimes outrage to end not only this food poverty, but also to provide access to affordable, nutritious food for the even more people who live in low-income neighborhoods. And she's my guest today. And welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You've spent, what, almost 50 years or 50 years?
What's it,
more than 50
1965.
years? 1965, worrying about food and getting food to people who need it, right? How did it start? Can you tell me?
Sure. I worked in the Bronx. I lived in the Bronx, and I worked in the Bronx for a group called United Bronx Parents, a woman named Evelina Antonetti, who headed it up.
Yeah.
And a group of Puerto Rican parents came to us, quite a large group, about, like 12 people, which is unusual. And they said to Mrs. Antonetti, and I was working there, that the food was so bad in their schools, in their school for the children, that the kids didn't eat. And it was very crucial to them to have these meals and to have the kids eat because they were living in serious poverty.
So we had free lunches then? I don't know.
That's done on a basis of, and that's a big discussion. So
we'll come back to it.
Okay, so let me just say that. So what we did at the time, it's a good story actually, is that we invited we went over to the school, and they were absolutely right. I mean, the food was horrible, and the working condition, it was just awful. It was PS 25, and so what was really weird, we invited every elected official from the area. This is the real South Bronx, 149th Street, the school was on. And we invited them to lunch, and they assumed they were coming to lunch at our office or whatever. We had a school bus, took them over to the school, made them eat. Well, didn't make them
gave them the food.
Cy Posner, I don't know if you remember him.
I remember him,
Assemblyman, got sick, which I didn't arrange, but it was a great moment also. And it was really bad. And so a lot got done. I mean, they were using regular dishes. They didn't have a dishwasher. The whole thing was crazy. And I noticed at that moment that getting parents, especially women and especially people who were not comfortable in the language and so on, you could get a lot of people to come about food. And when you talked about reading or going to the principal, they were too nervous. They couldn't do that. But food, that was their thing.
Yeah.
I mean, so I stayed with it. And, and when we changed something in the food program, then people would say, oh, you can change something and learn to go on to the next step. So that's.
And how did the food bank come about?
Well, that was much later than that because I'm describing 1965. The food bank, as I always say, people ask me, why did you do it? It was 1980. Actually, by the time we did it, it was 83. It's just 30 years this year. Ronald Reagan got elected. That's why we did it. Because we knew that for poor people, disaster was coming down the road. And it's, can I just explain for a minute, because people sometimes don't, a food bank is really a big warehouse operation.
Right.
And in this case, the warehouse is in the Bronx. It's across the street from the produce market, the big Hunts Point market. And it is in the meat market part. And the food bank is basically warehouse where they receive stuff, because a big company isn't going to deliver to every soup kitchen or every pantry. What the food bank does is deliver to.
So it's the intermediary.
A soup kitchen is a place where people come and eat a meal. A food pantry is a place where they come and pick up food and take it home and have the capacity to cook it. So that's really the difference. And that's the three elements
To the whole
that
thing.
exists.
And you were one of the founders of that?
Yeah.
Or the founder? You got
No,
the
not
idea.
the founder.
Okay, it was a
a
group.
few people.
But that part of the Bronx was generated great action, didn't it? I mean, it made
The
change.
South Bronx, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Was
It
Ellen
was
Lurie
a lot.
also in that?
Ellen Lurie,
Yeah,
Evelina, and
yeah.
I worked together for
It's a powerful
a while.
trio.
It was,
Then we came to the Community Food Resource Center.
yeah, that was in 1980. I started an organization because I really wanted some freedom to be able to do what we wanted to do, be as loud as we wanted to be, and all the rest of that. And it was unusual because we did direct service and advocacy. And I believe that those two things go together. A lot of organizations, certainly at that time, didn't do both. They were either advocates who talked about policy and stuff like that, but you have to know what's really happening to people. And if you do the direct service, then you know about it. So we opened, for example, one of the second biggest soup kitchen in New York, and it was a dinner program, which was also a little unusual. And we were
It's in
feeding
Harlem?
In Harlem on 116th Street, it's still there.
Did you feed 500 people? How many people?
500 people a day,
Nice.
sometimes more.
Unbelievable.
Now it's, we bought the building, which is another whole story, which I won't tell. And so downstairs there's a pantry. And I don't know if you remember Doreen Wall,
Sure.
but she ran a place on 86th Street,
yeah.
which is still there,
Yeah.
West Side Campaign Against Hunger. And she got the idea that rather than packing a package for people to take home, generally the pantries try to give 3 meals for 3 days for each person in the family, so that it's really valuable for people to take and important for them to have. And she got the idea that instead of that, to put things on shelves and make it like a mini supermarket so that you had some choice. Because those of us who have the pleasure in some ways and who really have learned by working with a lot of poor people, people don't have choice. They're always being given something or asking for something or filling out a form or doing something
With
like that.
regulations always attached.
Everything. And she got this idea, and I think it was one of the brilliant moves, and so that's what we did. And it's like a little supermarket. You have little supermarket carts, and people, you can't take 10 cans of black beans or, tuna fish or something. Tuna fish is not so often that we have protein items, but in any case.
Do you take donations, private donations?
Do
these
Oh, yeah.
pantries?
They're dependent
Right.
on donations. The food bank delivers the central stuff because the city and the federal government do provide on a big scale, and then stuff happens. Early days of the food bank, I remember all of a sudden we got a call from Tropicana. They were introducing, this is 30 years ago, they were introducing these combination juices, banana and strawberry
yeah.
and whatever combined, and nobody was buying it.
So they wanted to give it all to you.
We were like happy.
Right. It is.
When they first started Nutri-Grain, a healthy cereal, one of the companies started, they couldn't sell it for a lot. It was impossible. So we got it. Tropicana also, once they were doing their bottles of grapefruit juice, and they left it somebody left it like for 3 seconds extra in the pasteurizer. It came out looking a little gray. Nobody would buy. They wouldn't even put it on a shelf. We got
You didn't
tons of
mind
it. It was great. I mean, today, to tell you the truth, it's much harder because with computerizing,
And the food
all of these
regulations.
places have much more access. They know exactly what they've got. They know exactly what went out. They know what they need to make. It's really, it's not been good for the giving away.
The thing about the Community Food Resource Center, which was a long title, aside from the direct service, was the advocacy and the way you pushed the city. how to use the federal funds that were available.
Yeah, that was the big thing.
I mean, that was really important, and that was what, TANF, was TANF then? Or
Well,
where-
we didn't work, I mean,
food
we
stamps.
worked on welfare issues, which was TANF. We
temporary
worked
assistance to needy families.
Right. That was the
Right.
welfare program. We worked a lot on food stamps, an awful lot.
I remember that. When
I
I was on
mean-
the city council, that was also a major issue, but you were consistent with the city on that.
Yeah, and look, we killed ourselves to get these federal programs. I mean, years ago, people used to line up, usually at a project, at a low-income project, but people would line up for hours and get a package of food. And the food was anything the government bought.
Food stamps,
Yeah,
instead of having to
but
line
all
up.
of the
Yeah.
so getting food stamps, somebody could go to a store and pick out within certain parameters. You can't buy, for instance, toilet paper on food stamps. You can't. It has to be a food stuff, and you can't buy. I mean, all this stuff about steak and booze and I don't know what all. It was absolutely nonsense. It's very constrained in many ways, but the fact is that people who are on food stamps to this day buy healthier food than the average family.
How much does the food stamp add to the family budget for food?
The food stamp can add as much as $280
A month. Does that
Now,
come down
it's
to a
not
meal?
a
Do you?
lot.
It's like $1. What did you
It's
say?
$1.41 a meal, which with this latest cut that came in, which is, I mean, anybody who's listening to this would say, what, $1.41? Yes, because it's impossible to really do anything. And what happens, basically, is that on a good year, when things are going well, people run out of food stamps by the third week of the month. So the fourth week of the month, in all of the soup kitchens and food pantries, they get a
Yes.
lot more people than they
That's so interesting. So it's the pattern.
Yeah, people
yeah.
have
Yeah.
some money. They
Right.
you
And
know, all the food
now with a
stamps-
cut in food stamps, there'll be more people going to the pantries.
yes, but
And
since
there's not more food in the pantries.
no, that's really the truth. And since the recession, since 2007, New York City, about 200 to 250 of these emergency food providers have closed. They can't. It's just overwhelming them with the number of people that come there, because people who were working, and most of the people on food stamps, by the way, there's somebody in the family is working. This is, you know, you listen to the Republicans, you think it's all deadbeats. And it's, first of all, it's mostly children, senior citizens, and disabled people is the majority.
And the majority nationally are white people.
Yes,
It's not even to the stereotype
Yeah,
that
I mean,
they've
it's
given us,
completely
which is so
ridiculous.
outrageous.
absolutely.
And also the veterans, especially the new veterans
It's 1 million vets on
From-
food stamps.
from Iraq and Afghanistan.
And in New York City, 40% of the vets are on food stamps. I mean, it's outrageous.
And we're
it
gonna
was-
have this cut.
And this is somebody that's shiftless and lazy, which is what one of the Republican brains said not too long ago. I mean, it's horrible. It's just,
It's interesting. You know, we pay so much attention to oil because it's the thing that needs to make all the engines run. But we don't pay the same attention to food, which is what makes people work and operate. It's just an incredible kind of relationship. Now you've got a new organization.
yes, I retired a few years ago.
But you couldn't
10
stay
years ago,
retired.
not for about a minute, you know, with my colleague Agnes Molnar. And we've worked with the food bank, and we've worked with other
Children's
Citizens
Defense Fund.
Children's Defense
Yeah.
Fund. And but I don't know. There's something the matter with me, Ronnie. I can't work for anybody else anymore.
That's bad. Well, it's good for us because then you go ahead and start a new organization.
Yeah, we
So
just
you've
have-
got a new
Yeah,
organization.
Community Food Advocates, which is exactly what we do.
Yeah.
We do I'm a little
direct
past the
service.
point of direct service. I can't do it, and there's a lot of people that are doing
And
it.
you're emphasizing now school lunch, right?
Yes,
And food in schools.
right. Yes, and let me just say briefly that there was a big fight in the 60s and in the 70s, and we got a whole bunch of federal programs. And what that means, and it really was in tandem and in partnership in some ways with the farm block, because, you know, it was Richard Lugar, it was, you know, these people whose constituencies are dependent on selling the food and moving the food. So we have food stamps, we have in the child nutrition, which is where I now really focus, we have a breakfast program in every school in New York City. We have school lunch in every school, and it's much healthier than it ever was, and it's much better than it ever was. It's got a bad rep for a variety of reasons. And, you know, we have childcare food, we have some support, not enough for senior meals. I mean, and the WIC program, which is Women, Infants, and Children, and it's really a program that gives women who are pregnant good nutritious food, absolutely, and makes a huge difference in the number. You know, it's changed many, many things, but including that, the early death.
So now what are you really pushing?
So we're really pushing, because in the early part of the Bloomberg administration, we managed to convince them that breakfast was absolutely crucial. And if a kid comes to school and they haven't eaten, go try to teach them algebra or something in the morning. And so they actually made breakfast free for everybody in 2003. However, there's not much, you don't hear about it. So a lot of people don't realize what's there and what's available and so on. But now we want to add to that lunch, free lunch for everybody. And let me explain this a little bit. You're a parent, you come into the school, you're a 5-year-old to register the school, and everybody is cheerful and happy, and they do not ask you if you can afford the desk. They do not ask you if you can afford the teacher. They don't ask you if you can afford anything in the school, and all of a sudden they say, oh, but can you afford the food? And that's when you have to fill out this big complicated application, giving all your family income and all the rest of that stuff.
And if you go over, what, 35,000?
Yeah, approximately 35,000 in a
$35,000.
family of 3.
Then you're in a family of 3.
Yeah, then you have to pay for the meals.
I see, for lunch.
For lunch.
Right.
And we're running a program.
So that segregates already. It segregates the kids who come from poor families, which by the time you get into grade school and high school, bad, right?
It's terrible. I mean, you're absolutely right. In the elementary schools, we have over 80% of the kids are eating. You get to junior high school, all of a sudden they notice that their friends are, this friend has money, this one doesn't. I don't want anybody to think I'm poor. That's the end of that. It drops to 63%, I think. And then in high school, forget about it. It's 34% of the kids are eating. And I will take you to any high school. We go all the time. And there are hundreds of kids sitting there. And you ask them, why aren't you eating? I'm not hungry. Did you ever meet a teenager who wasn't hungry? I didn't.
And they just won't take advantage if
They
they're poor.
will not. How they are perceived by their friends and their peers is more to them at those ages than anything else, and they will go hungry.
So you're pushing that the breakfast program be extended to the lunch program.
Yeah, essentially, that all the meals be free. I mean, it is
How much is that going to
ridiculous.
cost us?
It would cost the city an additional $20 million a year.
A year.
That's 20
Which
bucks a kid.
Yeah, which in city is really.
Which is chump change in,
in the city budget.
The city budget.
So
It's
how
chump change-
successful? How are you going to get it?
Oh, I think so.
Will you have to lobby for a law, or is it just a regulation of the Board of Ed?
No, it doesn't matter. They don't care. The federal government doesn't care. If you're going to pay, what do they care? But the bulk of the money for this program comes from the federal government. In fact, it always amazed me. I mean, truthfully, Giuliani, when he was mayor, really didn't like poor people much. That's a nice way of saying what I usually say. And didn't take advantage of these programs. You were stopped at the door when you tried to get food stamps. You were stopped at the door with everything. And where do you think that money goes? People don't save food stamps.
Yeah.
They're not stamp collectors. They are going immediately to buy, and it is a huge boon to the economy of the city of New York.
Right, because if you have the money, you buy, and that helps the people who are in the business.
How crazy is that? When they did this last cut, the city lost $19 million.
You lost the support of the farm group because they got the subsidies and we lost the food stamp.
Yeah.
So who do you have to go to? Who's going to have to say, all right, we're going to do school lunches?
The chancellor and the mayor.
So hopefully that'll happen this year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
It looks like
I think they have an awful lot of things to take care of.
But it's
But
a
I
simple
think
thing.
we have, I mean,
Yeah.
it is so sensible.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing that goes on is that all the high schools, most of the high schools, I should never say all, most of the high schools are surrounded by fast food places,
Deliberately.
deliberately.
Right. They know where the market is.
They're, I mean, in my neighborhood, you know, 7-Eleven opened on 93rd Street in Amsterdam area. I'm like, why would they do that?
Yeah.
Oh, because there's a
Kids.
junior high school down the block, and you watch what happens at the end of the day. And it's it's very
yeah.
serious because
So we're interested in the nutrition.
yeah.
You're also interested in the availability of food. And you've made a suggestion that I think is really very good, and that is we don't pay enough attention to food. So why doesn't the city council have a committee?
You're asking me? You,
And
you're
why
Miss City
doesn't the
Council.
city have somebody who is doing the food, right? You want more attention to it.
And it's not just New York City.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, food policy in the United States has really always been agriculture policy. It's not the eaters that they worry about. It's, you know, they worry
Producers,
about
yeah.
the producers. And so there's never been a committee. And to me, it flabbergasts me. I mean, I'm very happy that there are all these committees and they do some wonderful things, but food is a necessity of life. I mean, and we've talked about this. New York City has approximately 3 days of fresh food. If something happens and the bridge isn't available or whatever, you know, it's very dangerous. You can't just mess around with this.
So it's not included in crisis planning, you don't think?
Well,
We don't know, but we don't
look,
think so.
when the Bloomberg administration did plan New York City 30 years ahead,
No mention of food.
I don't know if I can say this, but I went to a meeting with the head person who had written the report. I mean, and I said, you left out a 4-letter word starting with F, food. I mean, it was unbelievable. There was no mention of it. They eventually did a supplement because people were like, oh, that's crazy. I mean, you can't do that.
So we not only have to give people food, it should be nutritious. And you think we're making strides in the schools and some places?
Oh, in the
and
schools,
a lot of
absolutely.
public-
Every high school and most of the junior highs have a salad bar. That's a big change
Yeah.
from what used to be. They have a make-your-own sandwich area. I mean, it's really...
And then on top of that is availability. And you took on that fight years ago with Pathmark in East Harlem. And
Yeah, we were helpful. It was
Right.
Abyssinian Baptist Church that really...
yeah, has there been more distribution of food places of food availability? Do you know in the city? Has anybody? Do they map it?
Advocates have mapped it. The Coalition Against Hunger did some mapping, but they have to take a look at this. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's called food deserts. And by the way, I want to say that we talked about the 2 million people who are on food stamps and so on. Food anywhere is not only a poor people's issue.
Right.
When 9/11 happened, no trucks were permitted to go south of 14th Street.
Right.
You couldn't get anything, and the electricity was out. So all of these stores closed up. I mean, I have been yelling for years that there should be a requirement that at least a significant number of food stores and other things, but in my case, that's what I look at, that food stores have a generator. How hard is that? I was in Cape Cod once when there was a hurricane, and I figured, oh, there won't be anything available. Every single store had a generator because they know it happens. Well, something's going to happen. I
Well,
mean,
we had
and
it
then
recently,
we had
yeah.
the Hurricane
Right.
Sandy, and they
Everything
hadn't
closed.
changed anything. So the same damn thing happened all over again.
So if we had more attention in the government to food, we'd be able to do a lot of these
I mean,
things.
you need there's no, you've said there's no city council committee. There's no agency, there's no department of food. There's a department of everything. I mean, you can find a
Right.
lot of departments.
And they all deal separately with the food issue.
Yes, but a department would pull, look at all of this. And again, I really repeat that this is not just a poor people's issue. If the food is not available, that's serious for everybody. You cannot mess around with this.
Well,
I
we're
mean,
going
it's
to end our
crazy.
conversation with this.
Oh,
Your website is?
I don't remember the website,
Right,
but
well,
it's
we know it is.
Community Food Advocates.
Right,
and,
.org. And it's a
It's
very
food-
informative
it's
thing.
It's foodadvocatesnyc.org.
.org. Thank you. And thank you, Kathy Goldman. And just thank you for all the work you've done. It's just amazing.
Well, thank
Oh,
you.
Don't say well. I never even talked about the White House award to you. That was, I'm sorry about that.
Well,
But congratulations.
Next time.
Thank you. Bye. Is there any people you'd like to hear and topics you'd like us to explore? Please let me know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.